Hello, I'm Kathy Obear with the Center for Transformation and Change, and I'm delighted that you've agreed to be a site coordinator for this virtual workshop, In It for the Long Haul, helping change agents look at issues of self-care, community care, and overcome passion fatigue and burnout. What I just want to do in a few minutes is tell you just some of the logistics. You already got the letter under overviewing kind of your role and your purpose, and you got a PDF of the PowerPoint slides. And so as you saw, your role is really to greet folks as they come in, help people feel connected as they're just kind of sitting down, because people that come to this may be needing a lot of self-care, and so they might be a little burned around the edges and stressed. So just help them find a sense of belonging. And then a number of materials, as I mentioned. So just blank name tags and markers so people can put their name on and their pronouns if they'd like. Want some extra pens? You definitely want a packet for each person. I think it's only 12 pages, but we will, this one particularly, if you've used any of the other ones, this one particularly is a lot of reflection. Every handout pretty much I think is used, and lots of small group work. And then I did ask you to have some blank pages. They could be full pages, but half page will be enough. Towards the end, we're going to have people write what they wish they had known and share that. And there might be one or two other activities where having paper will be helpful for note taking and that sort of thing. As you looked at the PowerPoint, you probably noticed that, I didn't count, but maybe 12 to 15 times that folks are reflecting and then in pairs, and then you are debriefing a bit. Again, the intent is for you to get multiple voices in, be scanning, panning the room to make sure that all voices get in at some point, hopefully. Negotiate if someone's taken up a lot of airtime, bringing other folks on, that sort of thing. And helping people move into new partners. I think especially around community care and self-care, this workshop can help build it through the process of connecting and meeting more people that they may not have in their circle. And if folks can leave with 2 or 3 more folks they can pick up the phone and talk to, or say, can I come by for 5 minutes? They're expanding their community and maybe helping other people know how to create a culture change in the organization that is needed because people are burning out. I think that was all I wanted to say, except thank you for the work you did to prepare and get organized and all the logistics. We will do a break halfway through, and if there are beverages or something to eat or something nearby, you can direct folks. Do let people know as you're about to start or as we move to break where the different restrooms are. And my hope is there's a single stall, locked, all-inclusive restroom within easy spacing. You may want to make sure the chairs are arranged so that if anyone is using a cane or a wheelchair, they can easily maneuver. I can't think of much else. Oh, one more thing. You can see on the back, it's a different cover now. That was the ebook, but the paperback book now. On the front of the handout, actually people can download all 3 of my books. And so this one, In It for the Long Haul, you may want to recommend people to download. They do need to give me their email, so they're on my listserv, but just let them know once they get all the free resources, they can unsubscribe at any time if they get too many emails from me, and if they see a new offer, they want to get something else access, then they can pop on, but you can hop on and off easily. You might want to consider as a follow-up, bringing this group back together and have them bring a friend or colleague or 2 and do a book club. And I don't have a book club guide for this book, and yet I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You can have them read maybe 2 chapters at a time, come together, talk, maybe look back at some of the handouts. You can always print them off for people that weren't here for this workshop. And one more hint, and then I'll let you go to go greet people, is that one organization decided to do a book club in race affinity, race alike groups. And I still talk about that in most of my workshops. That was brilliant. Because the dynamics of the organizational press as well as the societal dynamics have a different impact on whether you're in the privileged or the marginalized group. And race is so centered historically in this country and today that you may want to start with that. What I find when I'm in organizations is many people are burning out, but it's usually folks of color that are doing 2 and 3 jobs, 1 paycheck, and are picking up the slack of many white people that are not doing their role, creating an inclusive organization, particularly keeping race class-centered. So you may want to think about folks of color, and you may want to do folks of color, multiracial, biracial, indigenous, depending on your numbers. You may want to do everyone together, and then a group with whites. And have them think about their own self-care, but also think about it in the relationship of privileged and marginalized. And you can start with race and then broaden it to other identities, because everyone will have privileged, marginalized groups. Just a thought. I'm grateful to that university that did that. So with that, thank you again. We will start just at the top of the hour. And thank you for bringing people to enjoy and learn a lot and hopefully feel connected and sense of belonging. But more than that, they have a right and a responsibility to create more effective self-care and community care in everything they do. So I'll see you on the other side. Hello, I am Kathy Obear with the Center for Transformation and Change. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I just want us all to take a deep breath and think about the lands where you are and the original custodians. Here in Denver, Colorado, I'm just feeling grateful for the Arapaho and the Cheyenne. I want to welcome you to this virtual workshop, In It for the Long Haul, Overcoming Burnout and Passion Fatigue as Change Agents. Today we'll be looking at self-care and community care, and I hope you not only get tools and skills, but you also find it as personally a time to renew and rejuvenate and recommit to a plan for you and your entire community, whether you're in a work environment, whether a home environment, community organizations, for all of us to stay in it for the long haul. And so let's start with 3 deep breaths. Take a deep breath and hold it. And out. And this time, breathe deeper, deep. And out. And this time, breathe deep and hold it for 5 seconds. And out. I love this quote by John Wesley, and I realize it fueled me for much of my life. Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as you can. And I just thought I could keep going and going and going, just like the Energizer Buddy, until I couldn't. And so it's going to be really important that we look for what are the signs you need self-care. So how many folks are running on empty? That's a sign that we need not only self-care, but community care. Because if you're feeling exhausted, running on empty, having to push yourself, then there are going to be people around you who are too. And I first want to acknowledge the person from whom I got the community care concept. I was reading some articles, and Yashna Padamsee talked about community care. It was such a new concept to me as I grew up in this pretty individualistic, white cultural, dominant cultural society. But are you running on empty? Are you pushing yourself just to keep going, afraid you might burn out or slowly fade away from passion fatigue? Or you're so exhausted and overwhelmed, you just want to sleep, but your mind keeps spinning and you keep creating seemingly endless lists of to-dos, all seemingly needing to get done now urgently, and you're just stuck and overwhelmed. Or you're like this one, just what in the world is that? All the things you've been thinking about. Or I'm presently experiencing life at several WTFs per hour. I hope you know what that means. If not, you can ask someone sitting near you. But I know that when I am so focused and growling all the time, I'm in need of self-care and community care. How do you know you need it? You're on social media 7 days a week, 24/7, 365, constantly on your phone, constantly, for me, Facebook, some people Instagram, Snapchat, I hear. Or you're watching the news, or you're binging on Amazon Prime. Or you feel this way, dear karma, I have a few people I think you've missed, that you find yourself much more judgmental, resentful, wanting to retaliate. Or you need self-care when you find yourself just running on that hamster wheel, working long, hard hours, nights, weekends, but seemingly not to get anywhere. Or if another can easily anger you, it's because you're off balance with yourself, Scotty Waves. And so take a deep breath. Are you finding yourself more triggered? Hot buttons are happening. You just easily snap. You're pushed over the edge. Something sets you off. You feel knocked off your game by those unexpected strong emotions that come. Or maybe you are looking for the exit. And whether it's you just want a longer vacation, you're thinking about quitting, you're thinking about the next job will be better, whatever it might be, you realize you're not fully present in the moment. I love this quote from Laverne Cox. There are a lot of people out there who are struggling, but I can't lift them up. I can't lift someone else up if I don't take care of myself. Let me do that again. I want to honor her work, an incredible change agent. There are a lot of people out there who are struggling, but I can't lift someone else up if I don't take care of myself too. I got to take care of myself and others so we together can lift each other up. The world needs so many more passionate, committed change agents who can go the difference and not flame out in an all-out sprint. And perhaps now more than ever, our organizations, local communities, our nations, our world need committed change agents who will persist and mobilize others to create meaningful, sustainable change. Yet in my workshops and all my coaching sessions over the decades, but especially now, I'm finding more and more people so close to burnout and passion fatigue these days. And they're still going out each day working for change, inside, outside organizations, but they're running on empty, sleeping just enough to have the energy to pull themselves up out of bed, get back to work, dream into the day they can finally get to sleep, maybe an hour earlier, maybe take a half day off, maybe get home in time, a nice dinner, binge on Netflix. Can you relate? Now, sometimes we find ourselves just going through the motions. We go through the motions, we've lost our spark, having to dig deeper into our reserves of energy. Even those are running dangerously low. The challenge is we're depleting ourselves and undermining our long-term capacity to sustain meaningful change work. We're putting so much energy into our work, creating greater equity and inclusion, but we forget about our self-care, the community care of others. We keep pushing, keep going. And then if you're like me, boom, it hits me all at once and I'm just exhausted. It comes out of nowhere. Well, it doesn't really. I just wasn't paying attention. And then we realize we've neglected our health, our relationships, they're suffering at home, at work, and community organizations. We don't think we can continue much longer with the zest we need to keep going. Does any of this sound familiar? Well, that's what we're going to focus on today in these webinar outcomes. Here's what we're going to do in this workshop. I want you to recognize the depth and breadth of your need and other people's need for greater community care and healing as change agent. Mostly, we need to understand the critical need to focus on our own self-care and other self-care so we can continue to be of service in this work. And explore proven tools and strategies that have been useful to people in workshops and trainings and coachings I've done over the years, and mostly to commit to a personal action plan, a community action plan for renewal and rejuvenation. We can sustain a high level of energy and passion persistence year after year, but we have to prepare now for the long haul. And so here's how this workshop's going to work. I'm going to lead you through many different activities. You've got the handout. I believe we're using every single one. And we'll break halfway through, but feel free to take care of yourself in between. And then site coordinators, I've asked to help people move in and out of activities, debrief them, and also to find new partners. I think in the process of doing this workshop, if you intend intentionally to meet everyone and then get in groups with most everyone, unless you have 50 to 100 people in the room, you can expand your network and maybe find 2, 3, 4 more people who can be a part of your community of care. And site coordinators, I'm going to be moving through at a relatively reasonable pace, but to you it may feel rushed. And so if you're using this video after the fact, not live, feel free to pause, take the time you need. Even if I say it's 4 minutes, 5 minutes, if your group wants 10, take all the time you need, because you don't have to do this all in one sitting. In fact, you may want to break it up into 2, 3, or 4 gatherings to have people come back together over, once a week over a certain amount of time. Now, if you're watching this by yourself, there are going to be many times for small group activities. So I encourage you to journal, do every activity, and then use some of the time to reflect how you might share this with others and how you might teach this if you want to think about doing that in workshops. Take a deep breath. This live workshop will work best if we work within some of these group learning norms. And so just take a moment and reflect. Are you willing to be open and honest with yourself and others? Participate fully +1 beyond your comfort zone. So take a risk here and there. Listen respectfully as you talk from personal experience. And please, you're going to be in some small and facilitated groups. So be watching the group dynamics. You and your partner or a smaller group, share the airtime, move in, move out, invite others in. Be as present as you can so you can hear all the different ideas and perspectives that other people share, that I might share. And if you hit a bump, it's number 12, you hit a trigger, I want you to explore the unintended impact, but also maybe acknowledge that the person had some intent. They weren't being malicious in a comment they might have made. Again, risk, lean into discomfort, be brave, especially with yourself. Be rigorously authentic. And you may want to notice the group dynamics. You may want to name if you feel a hot button. But mostly trust as you dialogue with yourself and others, you'll get deeper insights and understanding about self-care, community care, passion fatigue, and how to avoid burnout. And mostly, just enjoy, embrace this opportunity. Have fun. And so what I want to do is ask you to now think about, if you do feel triggered, if you get a hot button during this workshop, I want you to take care of yourself. And that could be breathe. So everybody do it. You may want to pause. And even though I'm talking or the group is brainstorming, you might want to go inside and just reflect on why you're feeling this hot button, or do a little journaling to get it out of you and just kind of put it on paper. And you may want to check in with someone. It may be you want to hit the restroom and take your phone and call someone or text someone, or just go take a few moments that you need so that you can recenter a bit and come on back in. So take a deep breath. We're about to get going. Here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to look around the room, and I want you to go greet at least 5 people, especially anyone you don't know as well. And actually, I'm not going to use a chime for this. After 5 people, psych coordinator, just say, okay, find your high five buddy. And this is going to be someone that you're going to get to work with for a few moments. And then psych coordinators, what I want you to do is give folks about 3 minutes with their high five buddy to go greet, find their high five buddy, and then talk about these 3 things. Have them introduce themselves, share their gender pronouns if they like. And then what's up? Too often in meetings, I find we start the meeting and get tasky, and yet we don't connect about what's going well in your life and anything weighing heavy on your life. I'm doing this in November 2018, and today just the fires in California are weighing so heavy on my life, and my heart is full. And so people might have dynamics in their family, kids, workplace, local, and people may or may not want to share, but I want you to give them a couple minutes to introduce, and then what's up. And then I want everyone to share something about your passion and vision for fueling social change work. You won't have time to share all of it, but why are you so committed to creating equity, inclusion, social change, social justice in your organization, your community, the world? And you might only have one of those. So, psych coordinators, thanks for helping people to go greet, find a high five buddy, 3 or 4 minutes to talk, and then maybe a minute to debrief and have people share a bit. I'll give you a 1-minute warning before I come back. So 5 minutes begins now. One more minute. One more minute. Ten seconds. Five, four, three, two, one. Take a deep breath and go ahead and grab your seat if you haven't already. We have to stay so close to our passion and just keep reminding ourselves why we're doing this work. Whether you do a vision board, here in my office, I have all sorts of messages up on my bulletin board. And anytime I look up, I can read a few and remember why I'm doing what I do. And you may want to talk in your community every month or so about stories of success, how it relates to your vision and goals. Stay close to your passion. And so on this live workshop, I'm not going to have you talk about this, but if you're using the video, you may want to slow down and do it. But individually, I would like you to do is just reflect. What all do you see occurring or not occurring in this organization, in your local area, the nation, the world, that seems to challenge or undermine your vision of what is needed and what is possible? I think it's important for us to not feel that we need self-care in a vacuum, but that, especially these days, so many people tell me they're exhausted and just overwhelmed and experiencing re-stimulated trauma with so many of the national and local dynamics that are going on. And so being able to talk as a community or talk with others and just realize there's so much that may be undermining, if you're like me, what I believe is possible and what I'm trying to create. Take a deep breath. So the first step is you got to know, what are your warning signs? And I know in the beginning of this, I showed you some slides kind of for fun and warm up, but now I really want you in your group to brainstorm. So site coordinators, just take a moment, have people reflect, and then just brainstorm some of their personal warning signs. It could be insomnia, weight gain, weight loss. You're just feeling lethargic and you just are frequently sick. Those are some of mine. So just take about a minute and a half, let people reflect for a quick moment, and then brainstorm and ask people to relate in. So if someone says, yep, I know I need self-care because of this, then have people either nod or snap or uh-huh. All right, go ahead and take about a minute and a half. About one more minute. About 10 seconds. Five, four, three, two, one. Take a deep breath. It is critical that we know our own warning signs, but it could also be fun if you're in a team. One of the follow-up activities, you can go back to your team or people you live with and ask them what they think your warning signs are. A, you might realize that you give them off more often than you know, and B, they may have picked up on some you don't even know you have. So please grab your packets. We're going to be working on page 10. Another way to know you need self-care, and you may have talked about some of your emotions, but I want to give you a chance to go into it more deeply. On page 10 is a pretty long but not complete list of a lot of feelings and emotions, some what people would call negative and some what people might call positive. What I'd like you to do is just reflect back over the last week or so and just circle or check off every intense emotion you realize you've been having lately and add any others. This is from the NVC Nonviolent Communication Toolkit by Raj Gill, Lucy Liu, and Judy Marin. And so I know for me, I felt appalled, depleted, angry, determined, dissatisfied, drained, and I stopped after D because I was like, oh, that's enough. So you don't have to do the whole thing. You can start wherever you want. Just take about a minute individually and just reflect and circle all the different ones you've had. About 10 more seconds of reflection. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. So site coordinators, just for a couple minutes, what I'd like you to do is get 4 or 5 voices in, and I'm thinking each person might name a few of their intense feelings and really ask people to relate in and make some noise. It could be stress releasing just to do it. And then ask for any insights or the impact from actually taking a moment reflecting on. I did this in a live workshop face-to-face once, and somebody said, I've circled 35 emotions with I've had very high intense lately. And it was just overwhelming and also freeing to realize how much was going on in their lives. So a couple minutes, site coordinators. About a minute left. Ten seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. And maybe one more. Because even talking about intense emotions, you may have re-stimulated them. And so keep breathing. And I have deep breathing all the time in all my workshops. And someone came up to me, actually several different people recently, who are either in healthcare or some type of therapy. And they say, actually, when you deep breathe, there's something physiologically that actually helps you quiet down your nervousness. So it's not just bringing in more oxygen. It does something to all those nerves and things. You can tell I'm not a scientist. So given all the warning signs and given your recent emotions, how much do you need self-care? So just take a quick moment, go inside. From 0, not at all, to 10 plus, I need it so much. Community care, self-care. I'm going to count to 3, and then I'm going to ask you either to give voice to your number or hold up fingers or both. So how much do you need self-care? I'm about a 9 these days. So 1, 2, 3, go. Now, as you listen or look around the room, my guess is, I did this just 2 days ago with a group, they were all 7 to 10, and some people were at 15. So take another deep breath. What we're going to do is an activity that will give you a chance to talk about how you are doing with one other person who's going to be your witnessing present person. And then they're going to get a chance to share. And so site coordinators, if you can help people start to move into partners, you may want to stay in your high five buddy, or you may want to move to another person. Here's how it's going to work. Each person's going to have 5 uninterrupted minutes to share what was your number and a bit about why. And for some people, 5 minutes will feel like a long time, and others will just be getting started. But how much do you need self-care and community care right now? And within the guidelines of confidentiality and respecting people's stories, you get to choose how brave and honest you want to be. You don't have to give details. In fact, don't give names ever. But you can talk in a way that this is about you. And I really want this to be a chance for you each to have someone who will just listen to you, not interrupt. They're giving you their best witnessing presence possible. So by now, I hope you're in your partners. Go ahead and decide who wants to go first. I'll give you a minute left, but it's going to be 5 uninterrupted minutes. You're just listening and you're just sharing, because sometimes when you hear ourselves, it can be powerful. So the first 5 minutes begins now. One more minute for the first person. One more minute. About 10 seconds. Five, four, three, two, one. Take a deep breath. And now the other partner. 5 minutes to share your number, how much needs self-care right now, and why. And again, uninterrupted witnessing presence for 5 minutes. Go ahead. Kind of one more minute, one more minute. Ten seconds to finish up the second person. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep, deep breath. And thank your partner for sharing and listening. Just have a moment to thank each other. I want to acknowledge that the idea of 5 minutes each way uninterrupted, first time I experienced that was in RC, reevaluation counseling or co-counseling. And if you're finding you're wanting more of a support, resource, a place that you can go to not only learn about equity inclusion, but also do healing work, check in your local area, reevaluation counseling, RC, peer-to-peer work, community work. They do just phenomenal worldwide healing work. And so highly recommend them. Deep breath. All right, psych coordinators, for 2 or 3 minutes, what I'd like you to do is just have people go inside their bodies and just notice the impact of sharing and listening so intently. And that what 5 uninterrupted minutes, what it did. Any insights? So take it just a couple minutes, try to get a few voices in, if not everyone's. Go ahead. About 1 more minute. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. Just another deep breath. I want to invite you to go inside your bodies and notice. Most times in workshops, after this engagement, authentic sharing, folks feel much more grounded in their bodies. They have almost settled in, not only to the session, but to their lives. Now, for some, you may have re-stimulated and remembered a lot, but I believe that listening and being heard, that you may realize, even as you reflect later, that you got some insights that you didn't realize you got until you finish up this workshop and go along your day. So I want to tell you a bit about my story and just let you settle and listen and see if you relate in or how you're different. Because I'm like, don't be like me. In graduate school, I caught fire to address issues of diversity. But as I look back, it was mostly sexism and heterosexism, homophobia, two issues where I'm in the marginalized identity and was experiencing increasing oppression. And in my first jobs as a college administrator and early in my consulting business, maybe 35 years ago, I channeled my activism into training others about oppression and challenging them to speak up, recognize microaggressions, interrupt them, notice differences interpersonally mostly. I was passionate, energized. I worked long hours, late nights, weekends. But I failed to realize that over time, I was losing my passion. I was losing my fire for the work. I was just putting in the time. I was so tired and depleted, but I kept going until I couldn't. Now, I've experienced severe burnout multiple times in my life, and I wouldn't wish that depth of exhaustion and despair on anyone. I threw my whole self into my work, and then I played just as hard in the off hours, burned the candle at both ends, and I was proud of it. I had no idea how costly the price would be for my life choices. But more than that, I wore my busyness and exhaustion and overworking like a badge of honor. I didn't pay as much attention to the quality of my work, just how many hours and how many weekends I was working. And I sure let people know I use these long hours of work to prove to others, but mostly to prove to myself that I was worthwhile and important, because I did not believe that I was worthy or I was deserving. And so I overworked to try to balance out those horrible societal messages, I'm not enough. My unconscious motto was work till you drop, believing that only then I deserved taking time off. I now realize I was really burning out. I was increasingly irritable, resentful, losing compassion for others. I started to isolate more. Can you relate? Taking every opportunity to close my door or not pick up the phone if I didn't want to. And I was just stressed out as I was stretching myself. There you go. Felt unappreciated with all the extra work I was doing, resentful as I watched some of my colleagues take better care of themselves and have a balanced life, but I would judge them. Needless to say, the quality of my working relationships suffered the more I got burned out. And then I would just keep getting sick all the time. I'd lay in bed with another cold or flu, and I'd think, what more do people want from me? I'm doing all I can. And I'd be so exhausted, so sick. But after a couple of days, I'd get a little better, feel like I can hardly get out of bed, still a light fever, but I got to do work or I got to go travel. But I had so little to give, and I felt like I was drowning. And then when I'd be sick again, back in bed, aching all over in pain, all I could think about is how much work I needed to do. And I'd lay there making a list of the to-do lists instead of resting and getting healthy. I'd look ahead at my schedule, so exhausted, depleted, but knew I had to get back sooner or later. Deep breath. I'm grateful somehow with support from people, 12 steps, some counseling I pulled through, got some new perspective, and was able to rekindle my commitment and energy for this work to stay in it for the long haul. But many do not. Think about the people you've worked with over the years in community groups, project teams, workplace, family members who have dropped out. We need thousands, millions more of us in it for the long haul. I believe we each have responsibility to model ways of creating change that show it's possible to be a powerful change agent inside and external to organizations, external in society, creating change. but at the same time, sustaining our passion and commitment, our usefulness throughout our lives. You don't have to struggle as long as I did and risk complete burnout and dropout, a total loss of passion for the work. There are tools and approaches that we'll cover today so you can develop more community and self-care to lead balanced, sustainable lives. But it won't happen naturally. We have to be intentional, vigilant, and persistent. So in the next steps to better self-care is to recognize how much you really need self-care, not just a number, but really going through your lives. And so please take your packet and turn to pages 4 and 6 and breathe a lot during this. I want to ask you to answer honestly. I just did this with a group of change agents, and they said that looking at these 3 pages really helped them see the truth about how they were living their lives, looking in the mirror. So I just want you to take yourselves seriously and honestly, but also take it easy. Keep breathing. So individually, I want you to look through and just check off and see what you notice and just keep breathing. And then I'll give you about 2 or 3 minutes to do it, a minute warning, and then I'll give you a chance to talk to a partner. So go ahead for about 2 or 3 minutes. About 1 more minute individually. 1 more minute. Keep breathing. About 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. I was re-looking at the handout while y'all were too. Lately, I've been more cynical, but I'm more forgetful. I can't remember names. I can't remember what I did yesterday. A couple times this week, I've woken up in the middle of the night anxious, obsessing about what I need to do, trouble back to sleep. And I want to overeat. And I'm giving up rest and social time, planning when I can get work done on the weekend. So those are not good clues for me on how much I need self-care. So just turn to a partner, somebody you're sitting near, or maybe a new person, and just reactions, impact, insights when completing this worksheet. What are you feeling as you do this? Just about a minute or 2. Go ahead. About 1 more minute to share, 1 more minute. About 10 seconds. Five, four, three, two, one. Take a deep breath. Thank your partner. And now psych coordinator, it says 3, but I'm going to just do 2. Just have people in your large group just talk about what was the impact of completing this worksheet, what insights they're getting. Hear 3 or 4 voices. Go ahead. About 1 more minute. Ten more seconds. Five, four, three, two, one. Breathe. We have to realize the impact our life choices are having, so we have the willingness and the courage and the perseverance to make small and large changes in our life. And so already, and we'll be doing a few more activities so that you get much clearer on the impact on your life, on you and others of the choices you've been making. You cannot pour from an empty cup. We have to take care of ourselves first. And whether you use the metaphor of when you're flying and they're like, put on your oxygen mask before you turn and help someone else, we know that intellectually, but how come we still show up in our lives in ways that are depleting and exhausting and we're burning out? And so what I want to do is have you begin to reflect on 2 questions. Why do we not take good care of ourselves? I mean, for me, I have those messages, people need me, and just so many old messages growing up that I'm only worthwhile if I make a difference and serve and help others. But a second question I want to reflect on is, what do you let get in your way? What do you use to justify overworking and overdoing? This is too important. I can't let anyone else do it, or everyone else is so busy, I have to do it, or I'll let people down, I'll disappoint them. So these messages we say to ourselves, it'll hurt my career if I slow down or say no. So what I'd like to do is, psych coordinators, just give people a moment to reflect on these 2 questions, and then have people share and have people relate in. And I'm going to think about 3 minutes, maybe a minute or so to reflect, or people might be ready to just jump in. So about 3 minutes to talk about these. Go ahead. One more minute to discuss. Ten seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. Now, I found it very helpful to then do a little digging, because I've got these messages that I say to myself that undermine my commitment and my plans for self-care. But until I started digging in some of those roots and found out where they came from, they still were pretty stuck in me. And so what I'd like you to do is turn to page 7. And we're just going to begin this conversation. I have 10 different questions that you can journal on your own. You can journal with your team and then come back and talk. You can take them to other people you might talk with for support. And I've particularly found numbers 1 through 5 particularly helpful. I'm going to give you a few moments individually to think about your own journey as a change agent, ways that you've centered or disregarded your own self-care in the process. And these first 5 have given me incredible insight. When I think back to the early messages, how I learned about taking care of myself, I watched my mom just going and going all the time. And I remember her sick one time in her entire life, where she went to bed and took the day off, quote, day off. My father, too, was working day. He'd come home at night. We'd have dinner. He'd roll up the tablecloth, roll out his engineering plans. He'd work into the night, sipping bourbon. So you can start to see the roots of some of my different dynamics. And I learned that taking care of others was so important and critical to my sense of self, particularly if someone's sex female at birth and identifies female and woman. So just kind of reflect back, choose maybe 2 of these questions and just take a moment and do some reflection, maybe some journaling. What was the role of work and service? My mom did PTA and Girl Scouts, and then she was working outside the home 1 and 2 jobs, and no one really ever encouraged me to take care of myself except when I got sick. Then I got special care at home. And so just take a moment, reflect on any of these, and then I'll have you find a partner. Just a moment to reflect. One more minute of reflection. Ten seconds. Five, four, three, two, one. So I encourage you to look around, maybe find someone you've not yet talked with very much, and share some of your reflections and stories. So just a couple minutes, each maybe share 2 or 3 reflections you had as you looked at these prompts. Go ahead. About 10 more seconds to share. Five, four, three, two, one. So Psych Coordinator, just for maybe 2 minutes, what I'd like you to do is get 3 or 4 voices, reflections, insights. If people will share maybe a headline of a message or how they were taught something early on, and see how many people can relate in now at the large group level. Just a couple minutes. About 1 more minute. About 10 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I believe there are so many messages that literally we carry in our bodies that are unconscious, and we probably won't be able to interrupt and shift them all these ineffective messages, until we keep getting honest, talking about them, journaling about them, relating into others, bring them into the light of day. Get honest and reflect on the impact they have on us individually, then our behaviors on others. And if we then have any leadership role, if we have these messages and we are putting them out in the culture and the climate, then we're clearly impacting others. So take a deep breath. What I want to talk about now are the costs and benefits of not taking care of ourselves. Now, the word benefit we'll get to in a minute, because you might be scratching your head like, what? So what are some of the costs when we don't take care of ourselves around work, relationships? So just start reflecting on that, because in a moment you're going to talk about that. Because again, if we don't see the pain of the costs, we're not going to change our behavior for the long haul and stay in it. But I also want you to think about the benefits. And I'll tell you a couple quick comments. When I was overworking and overdoing, I got reward, I got accolades, I got awards. And so it just were things I used to keep going. And then I got a lot of respect from people. And when I was sick or missed a deadline, I got sympathy. In fact, when I missed deadlines, people thought I was overworking. And it wasn't because I was incompetent or wasn't doing my job well. And so I got seen as a high performer with leadership potential, even though I was exhausted, burning out. So those are, I should put in quotes, benefits, because there's a payoff to keeping our schedule and our self-care in the back and our schedule so tight that we're just exhausted all the time. So here's what I'd like to do as site coordinators: give people a moment to reflect, but then brainstorm and relate in, either personally, or you can talk about at the organizational level. What are the costs when people are exhausted, burning out, having passion fatigue? And again, this could be from a community organization, a team, the entire organization, or even work outside. And what are the costs of not taking care of ourselves? And then what are, quote, the benefits? What do we get? What's the payoff? So again, I'm thinking about 2 to 3 minutes. So go ahead. About one more minute. Ten seconds. Five, four, three, two, one. Take a deep breath. So these aren't the only costs. It's also critical we identify the costs and talk about what if we do choose to focus on self-care and community care. And so just take a moment and write down a few. I'm going to pop up a slide of some of my real or perceived fears that I've had or I've heard in workshops. People tell me they're afraid they won't be seen as promotable, lose out on stretch opportunities, access to mentors and coaching in their privileged identities, afraid of being thrown out of the club. It'll be really career impacting. And then folks in their marginalized identities have really often said, already out of prejudice and bias, folks think I'm not very effective and not very competent. And so if I say I need more life balance, if I say no, they'll use that just to reinforce their racist or sexist or ableist attitudes they already have. And fear of getting resentment from peers and team, more tension, retaliation. And then this last one, some people hesitate to do much more self-care out of fear of people in their lives, whether it's family, friends, partners. Comments like, we need the money. How can you take time off? I can't, so why should you? So let's take a deep breath. And what I'd like to do as psych coordinators, if people would like another moment to reflect, but if people are ready to talk, just what are the possible costs and consequences, if any, if we choose to focus on our self-care, try to talk about community care in the workplace and at home. So again, just a couple minutes. Go ahead. And I'll put my slide back up. About one more minute. About 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Deep breath. I love this Audre Lorde quote. Caring for myself is not self-indulgent. It is self-preservation. Self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. Audre Lorde from A Burst of Light. In many or most organizations that I know, it is. Self-care, team care, community care is so counterculture. It's challenging deeply ingrained organizational culture, climate, beliefs about what is professional, what do you have to do to be able to move up in the organization, to be a leader. And so while you are focused on taking care of yourself and the people you work with, you know this, but I want to emphasize that what we do could help change the culture and the climate and benefit people and ripple out throughout the entire organizations with we're working. So take a deep breath. I think this is a good place to take a 10-minute break. Go take care of yourselves, and we'll come back in 10 minutes and keep going. Thanks. Again, you can use the chat at any point. And so feel free to send me any notes about how this is going or questions you have, and I'll glance at those before we start in 10 minutes. We'll start in about 4 minutes, about 4 minutes. Hello. Hello. We'll start in just about 1 minute. So please start to wander back. So you'll be ready to start in just about 30 seconds. Five, four, three, two, one. Come on back. Take a deep breath. Whew. What I'd like to do now is share with you some I find them useful tools that I probably could and should use every day. Dr. Martha Beck is someone I studied with in life coach training. And her tool, the Body Compass, I found so powerful to help me make effective choices, better decisions about how I want to use and invest my life force, my energy, my time. personal as well as work life. Now, the tool, the Body Compass, is a way for you to get much more information about what is useful, healthy for you, and what may not be as much. I think the idea is that our brains and our minds are so active and have been influenced by society and socialization so much. The voices we have in our heads are often not our own. And so the Body Compass helps me slow down, get in tune with my body, which can be a rich, powerful, much more accurate source of information from what I might call my higher self. People might use different language to give me insights that I can consider as I choose how I move forward. Critical tool. Practice it to become a habit. So what I'd like you to do right now is take a deep breath and get very comfortable. If you would like to lay on the floor, you're welcome to. If you fall asleep, someone will wake you up, but I don't think you will. What I'd like you to do is the first step is just notice how you're feeling right now and body sensations you're having. Just notice. Just take a deep breath. And now I'm going to do a short, brief body relaxation. I will offer what you could be reflecting on. You can do your own. But the outcome in about a minute or two is I'd like you more grounded in your chair, feeling your feet on the ground and just really in your body, present. So take a deep breath. I'm kind of moving around in my chair to just kind of feel it, leaning back. So I just really feel I'm sitting down. I have my hands on my thighs, so I feel grounded. I'm now encourage you to just feel your feet. Kind of roll them back and forth, side to side, really maybe push into the ground so you just really feel yourself grounded. You may want to roll your toes just to really focus on your feet. And now come on up to your lower legs and just notice your thighs, your calves, your shins, the back of your thighs. Just notice your legs. And do you feel any tension, any stress? Do they feel heavy? Do they feel light? Come on up into your lower abdomen, around your hips. And just breathe into that area. And how's your lower belly feeling? Your lower back. And breathe. And put your attention on your stomach and your middle back, and just notice any tension, how easy it is to breathe into your stomach. Any stress or pain or lightness in your middle back. And then breathe into your chest. Notice how easy it is to breathe. Breathe into your heart. Notice how that whole area is feeling. Light, open, heavy, tight, painful, joyful. One more breath into that area. Now bring your attention to your shoulders and your arms. And just notice how your shoulders are feeling. Just breathe in. Notice your arms, your hands. Now breathe into your neck and out, and just notice, what are you carrying there? How is it feeling? Now breathe into your head. Notice your face, your ears, your eyes, the top of your head, your mouth, your jaw. Breathe into your head and breathe out. And so while I hope you're in a bit more of a relaxed state, you also started noticing your body sensations more, I'm going to give you an overview of what we're about to do. I'm going to have you think about two different situations. You can have them at work, you can have them at home, you can have them in the community. The first one is going to be one that was very uncomfortable and you do not want to ever experience again. Now, I want this one to be short of harassment or abuse or threat of danger. I don't want you into fight, flight, freeze, flounder mode, but I do want you reflecting on something happened in that meeting and I just don't want to have to experience that again. Interacting with a coworker, something in a community situation. So I'm going to ask you to revisit it and think about it over and over several times until you really feel you're back there. And then I'm going to ask you to rate your body. But don't worry, I'm going to have you shake it off, so you won't be there long. But I really want to invite you to try to get into a situation. Then we'll shake it off. I'll literally get up and do a happy dance. And then I'll have you do some breathing to release whatever feelings you might have come up with. And then I'm going to have you think about a situation where you felt joy, you felt in the flow, you felt delight. One, you felt so comfortable, you wanted to have more in your life, again, workplace or home or community. And we'll again have you replay that several times until you're in that moment, and then I'll have you rate your body, because that's what we're doing, is trying to have you rate your body so it can give you messages. So I like to tell people ahead of time what's happening, especially that there's going to be a less comfortable, maybe even difficult situation that you are going to remember. And I just want you to know it's coming up. All right? So take a deep breath. You get to choose what situation, a challenging, stressful situation, again, short of harassment, abuse, where you felt physically, emotionally threatened, short of that, way short of that. A common workplace dynamic, you're like, no, I never want that again. So I'm going to leave you alone for a good 30 seconds. What I'd like you to do is replay it over and over. Imagine who's there, what were you wearing, what were they wearing, the room you were in, who said what, and what was said, the situation, what was done that you're like, I do not want this in my life. And replay it 2 or 3 times to the point that you really can feel you were back in that moment. So I'm going to leave you alone for quiet time. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now reflect, real time, what are you feeling right now? Where do you notice the feelings in your body? And really notice your body sensations. Do a whole body scan and just notice what you're feeling where. Now I'd like you to do is give this a number from -10. No, I don't want these body sensations, these feelings feel like a minus something, to 0, kind of neutral, all the way up to positive, though I doubt you'll have positive on this one, but you might. Give it a rating. How intense are your physiological body sensations as well as your emotions from -10 to +10? Give it a rating. Now I'd like you to do, just for about 30 seconds, turn to a partner and each person just say, here was my rating and here's what I felt in my body as I thought about that uncomfortable, difficult situation. And here's what were my feelings. Just share it real briefly with a partner. Go ahead. About 10 more seconds to share. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. So I know I'm not on video, but I'm now standing up and I'm going to do a happy dance. So literally shake it off. You may want to shake your hands up and down about 10 times. You may want to roll your shoulders. You may want to breathe deeply 5 times. Just blow it out. I'm just kind of up, moving my whole body, just releasing all those emotions that got remembered or re-stimulated just by remembering. You did not deserve that situation. You never deserve being treated or experiencing what you did. People can engage in ways that are effective. Just kind of release it out. Breathe. Whew. If you did a happy dance, you can go ahead and have a seat. So now, take another deep breath. Blow it out. Now I want you to focus. You're going to close your eyes again and focus on a moment you felt especially useful, joyful in the flow of your work. And what I mean by that is you lost track of time. You were just having so much excitement, maybe creativity. You were engaged in a great dialogue, conversation. You were in a workshop. You were learning. You were facilitating. You were leading an exciting meeting. Whatever it was, supporting someone, coaching them. Just take a moment and reflect. A situation that you're like, I want more of those feelings, those situations in my life. And similarly, close your eyes, get comfortable, and just for about 30 seconds, replay it over and over until you literally feel those feelings you remember having. Go ahead. Five, four, three, two, one. So I'd like you to do now is scan your body. What are you feeling? Body sensations, what emotions are up? And similarly, how would you rate this body sensations and these emotions from -10 to +10? Take a moment and give it a rating. What I'd like to do is maybe turn back to that same partner and just talk about what you're noticing now after envisioning a different situation and how does that compare to the first time. So take about another 30 seconds to go ahead and have that conversation. Just about 10 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Deep breath. So site coordinators invite 3 or 4 voices, just a couple minutes, and ask, what did people notice, if anything, between the first reflection in their body compass and then the second one? Just see what they noticed. Go ahead. About 1 more minute. About 10 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. Whew. Now I use the body compass all the time. If I'm deciding between what I want to do in an evening, I can imagine doing it and see what my body says. So as long as I'm centered and present, I'll get insights and influence. I remember being at a conference, I had 3 things I could do. And I did a quick body compass on all 3. And the one I was most excited about, I did first, was feeling even more fun. The next one, I was like, yeah, ended up going. But because I did the first one first, was in a great mood and I made it even more fun than I thought it was going to be. By then it was like 10:30. I was exhausted. And even though the last one I probably should have gone to, I was like, I am tired. It would not have been fun. I'm not going. And so the body compass helps me recognize my shoulds and break through some of that societal shoulding. So let me show you another way you can use the body compass. And this is, again, Dr. Martha Beck's work, the have-tos and the 3 Bs. So each person, what I want you to do is find something to write with and to write on. What you're going to do is first write 5 things you have to do this week. So I'm thinking I have to buy a turkey and decide if I want it frozen or thawed already, fresh. We have to clean the house. I have a project I need to do. So just think about whether it's chores or work, and a have to could be even going out to a movie. So it doesn't have to be what you don't want to do. It's just like, it's on my schedule, I'm doing it. You can be excited about it. So 5 things that are definite things you're going to do, have to do in the next week. I'll give you about 30 seconds. Just go ahead and write them down. All right, now the next step, just like we did before, close your eyes, imagine doing each one. Maybe 10 seconds might be enough. And then do a body compass, scan your body, and then give each item from -10 to +10. So going to a movie, I bet would be a +7, 8, or 9 for me. Depends which movie. Cleaning, -4 or 5. Buying the turkey, I actually like shopping so long as I'm not around a lot of people. So that might actually be a +2. So go ahead, take the 5 have-tos, to do a quick scan, and then write down what the rating would be from your body compass. Ten more seconds. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on back. So once you've used your body compass to figure out all the things you think you have to do, then I love her skills, the 3 Bs. How do you better it, barter, or bag? Now, when I first heard this, I could not imagine bagging anything, but today I bag things. But let me start with better. So you look at your list, is there any one of those you're like, even though it's a +2, how could I better it? So I'm thinking about going shopping. Well, I can make sure I have a really good podcast on so that if there are a lot of people around, I can be listening to the podcast or maybe even motivational music as I'm going through, and put out my intention that I want to be kind and loving and engage other people around the holiday season. So that might help better it. Another way I remember bettering is I love being outside. And so one day this summer, I looked at my calendar and I saw all these calls and tasks. I just felt depleted. And I thought, wait a minute, it's warm enough. It's sunny here in Colorado. So I opened the door, the kitties were outside, I put in the sunscreen, and I moved my entire office outside. I had meals outside. I use Zoom outside. Now, when it was a potential business, I probably did come inside and put on a jacket or whatever. But most of the time I was outside. So I bettered combining coaching calls, prep work, designing PowerPoints while I could be outside. Now, barter, the best story I have for this is I did cat litter forever in our relationship, and I just kind of started resenting it. When I finally got honest, my wife said, I don't mind doing cat litter. I'm like, ooh, okay, then you do it. She said, okay, but in exchange, you now do laundry. And I'm like, all right, I don't mind laundry. So we bartered. We each found something that was kind of a -4 or 5, but we bartered it. So now laundry to me, I can do it in between calls. It's not that bad. It's a +2 or 3 most of the time. Now bag. It's not always easy for me to bag, but sometimes social activities, I want to bag. But this one time we had people come into the house and I was like, sweetie, we're tired. The house is a mess. And she's like, well, what if we all go out? So emailed folk and we bagged them coming to the house. So we didn't have to shop, cook, clean up, and instead went out, had a blast, and the music was even better than we probably would have had. So here's what I'd like you to do. Look back at your 5 have-tos and begin to think and write down, how could you better one? Is there one you could barter so that you don't have to do it, you do something else in exchange? And could you bag something and either change it completely or literally don't do it? Just take a moment and see if you can use the 3 Bs on at least one of your have-tos. Go ahead. What I'd like you to do now is you can lean back to that same partner. Each share one of your ways you're thinking of better bartering or bagging. And if you feel stuck, your partner might be able to help. So just about a minute to each share one. Go ahead. About 10 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. You can take the body compass to teams, to home. You can teach youngsters this. The more you practice it, the more it'll become a habit. That would be my hope for you. Because when we say yes to others, we have to make sure we're not saying no to ourselves. Paulo Coelho. And another one, a dishonest yes is a no to yourself. Byron Katie. So psych coordinators. Oh, I found another one. You'll know you made the right decision. I love this one. You know you'll made the right decision. You feel the stress leaving your body, your mind, and your life. Bridget Nicole. But we have to be present enough to use our body as a source of information. Psych coordinators, just 2 minutes, maybe 2 or 3 voices. Just ask people's insights, impact from using the body compass, the have-tos, the 3 Bs, and how they could imagine using it in their lives at work and at home. So just get a few voices. Go ahead. It's about 1 more minute. Ten more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Deep breath. I hope you found those tools useful and you commit to practicing them. They can make a huge difference because we are not superhuman. You can do anything, but not everything. David Allen. Now, this was one of the hardest lessons for me to accept, to really get clearer. What are my passions? What am I good at? What does the world need? How do I want to be of service? And I had to choose because I can't do everything. And so the next step is identifying how you spend your time, because that might give you insight on how you might want to shift how you do your time. So please turn to page 8. What you'll see here are 2 rulers and space on the left-hand side. We're going to be working with this for a little bit. If you don't happen to have the handout, you just need a blank sheet of paper, and you can draw 2 large circles and divide them up into 12 pie pieces or hours. And then each of the pieces of the circle will be 2 hours. With the ruler, every little line there is 1 hour. So here's how it's going to do. I'm going to have you first on the left-hand side, just look at what are some common workday activities you have. Now, I know what some of y'all are saying. It depends on the day, but generally, for an entire 24-hour workday, sleep, meetings, let me give you a few ideas. Designing, creative time. Then there's chores. You might have parent, child, elder care responsibilities, exercise. So just kind of look at this list. And the first step is individually write down, if there was a relatively generic day, what were the activities you might do? And then assign them the amount of time. Sleep for me is 8. Most days I'm in calls, meetings, at least 6. Maybe I get 2 hours of design, but I'm probably at my desk for 8 to 10 hours a day. Preparing food, it's another couple hours. That plus eating is a couple hours. Hanging out with my wife, watching TV, eating, might be another couple hours. So just kind of look through all this. It's not a complete list. Do the same thing for a day off. To be honest, you may not have time to do both. So you may want to choose one. And then what I'd like you to do is transfer the activity and how much time it is onto the ruler and literally draw it in. Write in sleep and block off 8 hours. Write in work and block off. Transportation might take you an hour or 2 a day. And so go ahead and do that. I'll give you about 3 to 4 minutes individually to reflect. I know you won't be done. Again, if you're using this video on your own, you may want to give people 10 minutes. But just begin the process of choose a day and start to fill it in and see what you notice. Go ahead. About 1 more minute to reflect and work on your ruler. About 10 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. Here's what I'd like you to do. Turn to a partner and just share some insights and reflections, just for about a minute or two. Go ahead. About 10 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. Now, as you can see, you could have spent another 10, 15 minutes kind of analyzing how you spend your time. And so I just wanted to dip you into this activity so that you can see how you could use it with people you live with people that you work with people that you do community service work with, to begin to think about how we use our time and what could be more useful. So did you notice that you had leftover time? Every once in a while, somebody in a workshop were like, I don't know what I do with my time, but I have 2 hours that I can't account for. Why do I feel so exhausted? Most folks have a long list that they have of things they do, but they're like, I don't know how I get it all done. Speaking of getting it all done, I'm just going to skip this one conversation. Here's what I'd like you to think about is look back over your list and just begin to reflect. And you may even want to make some notes. If you look at all the things you do on a typical day, which ones add value to your life and re-energize you? When I think about it, when I work out in the morning or I go for a walk in the afternoon, my wife comes home and we're debriefing the day, I release stress with that afternoon walk, and I have probably another couple hours of really focused time to be focused on the relationship or whatever we're doing. Go ahead and put a question mark by any of the activities you're like, doesn't drain me, but it sure doesn't energize me. And so sometimes developing handouts is one of those for me. Now, developing PowerPoints, I'm usually excited about because I'm thinking about the workshop, but handouts, it's like something I have to do. But mostly I want you paying attention to, are there any activities that you do in a day that are draining, that deplete your energy? And just put a little minus by that. So you can have a plus, question mark, or minus by these. Just take a moment and reflect on that. Five, four, three, two, one. Take a deep breath. And I want to know, at least I want to acknowledge that I'm beginning to ask you to reflect in ways that may be a little more honest and authentic. And so just keep breathing. And if I ask you to do something you're like, it's a good idea to do, but not now in front of these people, just feel free to use your time however you want. Another way to look at how you spend your time, it's similar, but it's different enough that I like to encourage you to think about what brings you joy, happiness, and contentment in general. And then compare that to what you do every day. During our break, I was out with my kitties and I pulled out one of the toys and was playing with one of the cats. It just brings me such joy to have them leaping around and jumping around. And I can look at my day and wonder, how often do I weave in things that bring me joy, happiness, contentment? It's almost like the bettering from the 3 Bs and how I might scaffold what I do or order what I do in a day. So just take a quiet moment and reflect in general, what brings you happiness, joy, and contentment in your life? And then look back at your ruler and see how many of those things are kind of woven into your typical workday. Go ahead. Ten more seconds reflection. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. And so, site coordinator, what I'd like you to do is just ask just a couple minutes, reflections, insights from doing the ruler activity, how you use your time, and then rating them plus question mark minus how value added or draining, or what brings you joy compared to what you do. Just invite some reflections from folks. Go ahead. Just about one more minute. About 10 seconds. Five, four, three, two, one. Take a deep breath. All of these different activities and reflections I've asked you to do really will help you recognize how you use your time. And as you share them with others, you get them to do the activities, we might begin to see some patterns of the reality and the impact of our own choices and other people's choices. And again, we'll only change usually if the pain of staying where we are is bigger than the fear of what we think will happen if we do change. The first step to getting somewhere is to decide I'm not going to stay where we are. JP Morgan. So take a deep breath. In a given day, a week, we do activities that address all of these needs of ours, from our work life, career, eating, happiness, fun, play, adventure, financial health, stress, sleep. So I want to just kind of take it up a notch and think about, of all these different activities, what you do to maintain your emotional, mental health, which ones are you satisfied with in your current state? And so please turn to page 9. Again, this is a list of 18 kind of life things we do. You may not do things that address all these different life needs, and you notice there's space at the bottom if I've left off some. What I'd like you to do, and I'm not going to ask you necessarily to share this with anyone individually. This is just really for your reflection. We're getting closer to a line of what I would require people to share on a team or publicly. You'll have a chance to share what you want publicly if you want, but you don't have to. So what I'd like you to do is just take a moment and reflect from a scale of 0 to 10, how satisfied are you? Not at all to completely. And if I look at this, number 10, play adventure, is about a 1 for me these days. Sleep is about a 3 to 4. My eating is actually a 8 or a 9. I'm doing pretty good. Exercise, 8 or 9. So just kind of look through, add any more you want, and just get honest with yourself. If you don't want to write down the number, feel the number in your body. How satisfied are you with your current state, how you use your time to address these life events, life needs? About 1 more minute. Five, four, three, two, one. Take a deep breath. Appreciate your honesty. I do not like the slide I'm about to show you, and I believe it's true. Today, according to Mike Adams, more than 95% of all chronic disease is caused by food choice, toxic food ingredients, nutritional deficiencies, and lack of physical exercise. Just take a deep breath, bring that in. So much of our self-care and resilience involves what we consume and what we physically do with our body. And so as you're just reflecting, as you consider changing eating, drinking habits, how you exercise, move your body, I find that when I'm coaching folks, if people can shift 2 to 3 things, small changes a week, and then the next week a little more, they free up all kinds of energy and clarity of thought. When I stopped eating sugar, when I stopped eating wheat and most gluten, I also don't drink alcohol. I found all this energy I never knew I had. And even today, if I overeat gluten-free cookies or dairy-free ice cream, just all that sweetness drags down my energy and body. And so where might we sometimes overdo? What are some of the substances and activities that we sometimes overdo when instead we're in need of healthy self-care choices? Now, I'm not going to ask you to share this personally. What I want you to do as a group is psych coordinators talk in general about the types of substances and activities that some people sometimes overdo, used to numb out, maybe to buffer feelings, to reward themselves. And so just take about a minute or two and just brainstorm, try to get 6 or 8. And as we're doing that, just reflect yourself. I'm not going to ask you to share, but what might be your current state in your relationship to these things? Go ahead. About 1 more minute. Ten seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. And I appreciate your willingness to reflect and share some of the common dynamics. You may want to take the next step and start paying attention to how you eat, what you drink, your beverages, exercise, meditation, play, leisure, how you unplug, you sleep, nap. Now, whether you want to create a journal for each one or in general, just notice. It's almost like you're doing those ruler activities, but every day. But the part of journaling that could be helpful is writing down what and when you did whatever, but notice how you felt before, what you were thinking before, how you felt during, how you felt afterwards, and then the impact 1 or 2 hours later. When I work out in the morning, I feel great. I feel fabulous. Well, I don't feel as great during, because sometimes my body's a little achy, but afterwards I have 2 to 3 more hours of high energy to get great work done. And that's what I notice. When, with Thanksgiving coming up, I may make a gluten-free, dairy-free pumpkin pudding with some dairy-free ice cream. What I know is when I eat that, it has some sugar in it. And while I enjoy it in the moment, an hour or 2 later, I just feel that sugar plunge, and I just feel tired the next day. So thank you for letting me remember that before I cook it all. Take a deep breath. The key to self-care is balance. And so we need to focus on where we want to go, what's the life we want to create, not what we fear, Anthony Robbins. And I love this from Dan Millman's book, The Peaceful Warrior, Way of the Peaceful Warrior. The secret of change, focus all your energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new. The Socrates character, building the new. So what do you want to create? So I want to talk you through an activity that I want you to do on your own. And you can look at some of Dr. Martha Beck's writings. You can probably find in Google and some of her books. She talks about a day off or a work day, and it's the ideal day. And how you can do it, if you find a partner, you can support the partner getting kind of meditative and quiet, and then just talk them through the day. When you wake up, look around, where are you? And as you get up and you get ready to start your day, what clothes are you putting on, and who's around, if anyone, and what's the first thing you do? And you just kind of slowly walk them through the day and give them some time in between to really imagine and visualize an ideal day. Now, you can do it a current day. I did one once with a coach, had me do like 3 years in the future. And I got some insights on how I wanted to shift my business so that I lived differently. And you can do a work day or a day off. And then after you do it, you may want to make some notes and get some insights before you lose it. If you're working with a peer coach or a life coach or a career coach, and they walk you through this activity, talk it through with them. They can take notes while you're talking it through and then give them back to you, so you really have it. And then you may want to reflect on it and add to it a few more times. But envisioning 1 year out, 5 years, even 10 years, what's an ideal day, can help us open up the opportunity to imagine what else could be different, and then what could we do starting now to create that life that we envision. And you can do the ideal day for now. What's an ideal day offer you? And you may realize you want more sleep, you want more friend time, you want more going out and doing a sport, you may want more art in your life. You can cognitively think about it, but when we get quiet and go into our bodies, just like with the body compass, you may get insights from that right side of your brain, your higher self, to tell you what to do. No matter how far, no matter how long you've traveled in the wrong direction, you can always turn around. My hope is you're beginning to realize it may be time for a change and you're getting more willingness to do it. So take a deep breath. What I'd like you to do is turn back to page 9. What I'd like to do is just choose 1 or 2 of the list from How Satisfied Are You that were the lower numbers, whatever low number meant to you. And note what you intend to do differently, how you want to improve your self-care. I really circled play, and Saturday, I intend to not to do any work, and I intend to talk to my sweetie and say, what can we do that could be fun, just us? And intend to go do it. And so just think back to 1 or 2, I'm not saying 10 or 12, 1 or 2 areas, and just quietly reflect just for about a minute. Write down what you intend to do differently to improve your self-care. About 30 more seconds. Five, four, three, two, one. Lean over to somebody. If there's somebody new you haven't met with, or you may want to go back to somebody you've already met with, like what you do is just share 1 or 2 areas that you want to improve. You don't have to tell them your number, but 1 or 2 things you intend to do differently. I'm going to give you a minute. Go ahead. 10 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. So I love this Gandhi quote, action expresses priorities. And this one, if you want something in life you've never had, you got to do something you've never done. So continue looking at how satisfied are you on your own time. Choose a couple more, how you want to make a small change in your life as you move forward. Do at least one thing every day your future self will thank you for. The future life you want, your ideal day, you can begin now, because tomorrow is going to be based, literally tomorrow, Friday, how you're going to feel is what you do today will really influence it. And the Stephen Covey, the key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. What's important to you, what's your passion, how can you be of greatest service, what helps you retain that energy, keep that spark, prioritize those so you can show up and do the other things. And that includes quiet, reflective time, which I don't have enough of. I don't choose to do enough of. Taking time to do nothing often brings everything into perspective. Dos Entamana. I love this one. But it's not just our activities, it's who we do them with. And so this Jack Canfield is so great. Make a conscious effort to surround yourself with positive, nourishing, uplifting people. People who believe in you, encourage you to go after your dreams, and applaud your victories. So just take a moment, think about the 4 to 5 people you spend the most time with, whether it's at home, community, at work. And are these folks who uplift you, believe in you, support your dream, applaud your victories? And if not, respect yourself enough to walk away from anything that no longer serves you, grows you, or makes you happy. Robert 2. Deep breath. Whew. I know some of these decisions may not feel easy. And so as we keep going, I just want to keep showing you different things, having you different reflections, and just keep redoing these activities over and over and keep going deeper and deeper. I want to spend a moment on page 11. You may know Marshall Rosenberg's work, Nonviolent Communication. And a key part of his work was to talk about universal human needs. And around on this screen here are a bunch around the world, but on page 11, you'll see a long list. What I just want you to do for a moment is breathe, and then read maybe a third of this, and circle any needs you want more in your life. And I'm going to give you about a minute and a half, so just kind of take a moment. Which ones do you want more in your life? Ten more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As I was looking, y'all could probably guess, I want more play, rest, relaxation, adventure, joy, beauty. I could keep going. So it's another way to recreate your life is, what are my unmet human needs? It's not exactly telling you how you're going to get them, but you can get clear, and you can put these on Post-its, put them up in front so you'll see them every day, and ask, how is what I'm going to be doing today bringing me more of these into my life? Site coordinators, just for a couple minutes, just invite 4 or 5 voices in and have people declare, using this list, what you want more in your life. What are some of your unmet human needs you want to address more in your life? Go ahead. about 1 more minute. About 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. Small, seemingly insignificant steps completed consistently over time will create a radical difference. Darren Hardy. I believe it. And did you ever play with this game when you were growing up? I remember somebody had it in their office once. You just gently pull one ball and it just gently hits and the others move. So you make a few small changes in your life, see how that goes, make a few more the next week or the next day. And you don't have to do major changes. You just start out slow. And so what I'd like you to do is turn to page 12. And at the bottom, just take a moment and reflect. These prompts, if they work for you, how do you want to take better care of your health? How do you want to eat and drink differently? How do you want to create a better work-life balance? Just first things that come to mind. Just write down a couple commitments to yourself, your plan, what you're going to do. Go ahead. About 10 more seconds. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Deep breath. Psych coordinators, just a minute or two. Get 3, 4, 5 quick voices in the room. People say what they commit to trying to do differently, what they're going to put into their plan. 2 small changes is all I'm asking for. So let people publicize it. Go ahead. One more minute. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. It's one thing to recognize what you need to do. It's another to see how satisfied you are and talk with someone about it. But to literally write it down and then publicly say, here is what I'm going to do, will get you much closer to doing it. Remember, this is a journey. There, at least in my experience, there aren't quick fixes. It's actually been probably 10, 15, 20, 30 things over time that I've shifted over the decades that has actually been what has helped me create a life where I have more energy sustained for the long haul. And so keep these notes, add to it, try stuff out, see how it works, adjust it, try a few more, tell some other people what you're doing. Maybe you want to find an accountability buddy, somebody at work or at home that you both can check in with every day or two on how you're doing. with all these tools and activities, some may seem more useful to talk about. Others might be a little closer to the line, things you don't want to talk about in the workplace. And I want to support that, but I do hope you have some place where you can talk to people about the kinds of changes you want to make so that you have people you can share that with. Take a deep breath. I love this Parker Palmer. Self-care is never a selfish act. It is simply good stewardship of the only gift I have, the gift I was put on earth to offer others. And so I want you to make yourself this wonderful door tag, right? I'm taking care of myself today. You literally could have it, you could put it on or make one. I'm taking care of myself for the next 30 minutes to let people know that you have some boundaries, and for this moment, you're doing something that's going to rejuvenate you. Now, overall, it might mean you want to be looking at taking some half or full day self-care days, negotiate with a team, your supervisor, that having some of these self-care days are critical to keep energy up, clear focus. You also may want to think about some team care activities. Do some team building. It could be an hour, 2 hours. That's all fun, stress releasing. And my favorite idea lately someone told me about is finger painting. What I'd like you to do is look at the top of page 12. And I just want you to begin to think about what are some of your self-care declarations. Now, some are written there, plus here's some of mine. And between those, maybe just think of one of your own or choose one of these. And psych coordinators, just for a minute or two, get 3, 4, 5 voices. What are some of these declarations you're almost ready to make to yourself? And I'll put mine back up. So go ahead and do that. Thirty more seconds. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. So I want to encourage you, whether they're mine, the one in the handout, or ones you just heard, you write them down and you put them on Post-its, you put them on your bathroom windows, you put them as you're maybe not driving in the car, but maybe while you're stopped, you can look over on the dashboard, you put them on your bulletin board, you keep these in front of you, keep adding to them. We deserve self-care, community care, but we have to keep reminding ourselves because the press of organizational culture is huge. We also need to celebrate progress. Not many work cultures or home environments do that. So I really encourage you to think about how can you celebrate what you do well, progress you're making in self-care, let people know. And it's about progress, not perfection. And so there are going to be days, maybe even weeks with some of these tools, you're riding the wave like, whoo, I made some changes. I'm feeling good. I'm riding this wave. And then one day, boom, you're going to like crash. And then you just kind of get back up on the board. You assess what you've been doing. You make 1 or 2 more changes, and then maybe you're riding the wave. But some of y'all might be thinking, well, what if all these self-care tools don't work? That's when you might need extreme self-care. There have been times in my life where I have used therapy, 12-step programs. I've taken a longer vacation or more frequent short vacations, or literally I just blocked off 3 days in December. I'm like, I am not taking any calls. This is just going to be creative time and restful time for me. You might find you want yoga retreats, meditation. Some people have found taking a short leave of absence, a longer sabbatical if your work environment allows that, and then possibly thinking about, is this job filling my soul and does it align with my purpose and my future? So take a deep breath. And you might realize you need deeper work and healing around your triggers. And so I just want to remind you that the webinars that I did in September and October on navigating difficult situations, as well as my first book, Turn the Tide, which is on the front page, you can download lots of resources on my website. Working with others, just do deeper work around what are the sources of your trigger, because there might be old issues, things from the past, cumulative impact today. Because we might be searching among the branches for what only appears in the roots, Rumi. And it's the intrapersonal roots that we have that we deserve the space for healing, recognize what's going on, give yourself that sacred healing space, however that looks for you, so you're not carrying around all that luggage, which is just dragging you down and creating more stress in your life. As Wayne Dyer said, if you don't make peace with your past, it'll keep showing up in your present. So how much healing could you be doing that'll help you have better self-care, community care? As Jana Van Sant said, when you can tell the story and it doesn't bring up any pain, you know it's healed. So just take a deep breath. Whew. I love this. This is a new normal. Let go or be dragged. Zen proverb. I would love every work environment to have this, every community organization to have self-care and community care, the new normal. So we're here for the long haul. The world is speeding up. Demands are increasing. We have fewer resources. We're all called to do more and be more. It's critical we develop the capacity to live a balanced life in the midst of all these competing current demands. And that may mean helping the overall organization take a closer look at its climate and culture. It might mean revisions and the support we have from personal, professional health and wellness care, employee assistance programs, whatever it takes so we all can show up our best selves for those we serve. And as Dr. King said, you take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. You deserve to have more self-care, more work-life balance, and your organization needs you at your best. We need to create a community care with our colleagues to continue these conversations, take any of these activities, do one every staff meeting for the next 6 months so that you have honest, authentic communication so that you support each other, especially as you need to look at organizational culture. Last activity I have you do is take a deep breath, and psych coordinators, if you could please hand out just a piece of paper to everybody. And what I'd like you to do is write down a morsel of insight, some wisdom, some coaching, some advice, what you wish you had known earlier or remembered earlier, or what you need to remember today around self-care, community care, work-life balance, so we are of service in it for the long haul. And just take a moment. What I'd like you to do is write it down, and then what I'm going to have you do is psych coordinator, have people trade it 5 times and read 8 or 10 aloud in the room. So about 2 minutes to do all this. So go ahead. Just about 1 more minute to read a few more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just breathe. Take another deep breath. And one more. Whew. Thank you for your work today. I really recommend, whether it's the books you can get mine, you can download them for free, and lots of related resources. It's the second link on the front page, or other articles, people's reflections, maybe parts of memoirs, tools and skills to help people think about how to live differently today while we're creating social change, creating greater equity inclusion. I do want to mention that I'm doing bonus calls. I'm starting a new course on facilitating designing equity inclusion workshops. So Thursday, December 17th, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. There's the link. You can take a quick picture if you want. I'll do an hour, and people have been sending me in questions. That's the second link. Dilemmas that I'll cover, and then people are live and can type in questions. And it's been phenomenal. I've had 2 of them now, and I'll do one each month for a while. So I'd love you to join me, or maybe people you work with that really want to create more powerful, effective equity inclusion through trainings. Come on along. And then all of my webinars, this is actually my last topic, but all my webinars will be available at least through the end of 2018. So you can find 10 of them at that link. They might be useful professional development for folks in these last 6 weeks of the year, or maybe beginning of the next year. I want to remind you, if you want to work with me in greater depth, I'll start a new masterclass for inclusion practitioners on January 11th. It's a 12-session course over the spring. Participants in the 3 times I've done it have accelerated their capacity to work with leaders to create much faster organizational change in teams and in the cultures and the climate. And then I now have about 14 people working with me for an entire year who want to develop their capacity to be internal change agents or external change agents and really accelerate their capacity to change organizations, to do their own capacity building around facilitating and design, to become a coach. Some people have started their own business around equity. Everything I know, everything I've ever done, I make available to people in my year-long program. And finally, I work long-term with some organizations who want to then have me partner with them to deepen their capacity on all these issues. So take a deep breath. You've probably heard this one. 3 frogs are sitting on a log. One decides to jump off. 3 frogs are on a cold log here in Colorado. One said, I'm getting off this log. How many frogs are left? Well, when I heard this, I said 2, because I thought he said he's leaving, right? But turns out that frog only said they were going to go. They made a decision to go, but they did not take any action. And so today you may have reflected on your life at work, at home, in the community, and made some decisions on how you want to change. But if you do not take action and implement some of these changes, you'll still be sitting on that cold, slimy log as we move into the winter. Take a deep breath. I'll end with a Talmud. Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now, love mercy now, walk humbly now. You're not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. You're not obligated to do it all or do it with such intensity that you're burning out. But we each have to do our part, find what we are good at, what we feel joy doing, and how we can work with others to accomplish social change, social justice. Do that. We don't have to complete it, but we cannot abandon it. Thank you for all the work you do to create greater social justice in the world and your organization, and thank you for spreading these tools out to others so we create communities that stay in it for the long haul. And we will be here avoiding burnout, avoiding passion fatigue, supporting each other to create the change we envisioned. Thank you for your work. I hope to see you in the future. Take good care.